We are in Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh, Durham, and Cary.
I picked up this random Ravens hat, and I was like, "What if they're in Cincinnati or Cleveland?"
Then we'd be
like, "Fuck
pretty
that
pissed
guy."
right now.
Yeah,
is
that'd be
is the answer to that. You didn't pick it up when you were in Baltimore, did you?
I did. My son, I live in DC, which is kind of Maryland adjacent.
Yeah.
My youngest son, weird kids pick up weird things. He loves Maryland for some reason. He just thinks it's like a Shangri-La, even though it's just like a place we go to the mall sometimes,
Yeah.
So he's like, "Which football team is Maryland?" And I was like, "It's the Ravens." He's like, "That's my team." So he made me buy him a Ravens hat. So that's why we have this Ravens.
There it is.
Okay.
So, I guess we're all Ravens fans tonight. There are worse things to be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Ultimate Comics live Q&A with Tom King, a man who requires no introduction. I'm going to give you one anyway. Let me see. Eisner, Ringo, and Harvey winner.
I did. I won a Harvey but I won a Harvey when it was
cool.
When it was easier to win it. It's like impossible now.
You still won.
Claim it. I still won. I won it the year before they changed to they give one comic book award and it's all movie awards now. So I won when they were still getting a bunch of comic book awards.
Hey, again, a win is a win. No one can take that away from you.
Still counts.
But yes, writer of Mr. Miracle, Sheriff of Babylon, Omega Men, Superman Up in the Sky, and I could go on. Hits all, well loved. Today we're going to mostly be focusing on his, I guess it's tied for newest with Rorschach, graphic novel, Strange Adventures. But of course, if we run out of Strange Adventures questions, we'll open it up to just about anything. Within reason.
You can ask me anything. I was in the CIA. I know how to say no comment.
Yeah. I'm actually well trained in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great book. We actually sold out on Wednesday. But
yeah, that's what I like to hear.
Exactly. If any of our viewers do want to get their hands on it, it is a gorgeous hardcover. We've just put in a massive reorder for it. Shoot us a message at any point, preferably after the show, and we will make sure that we get this puppy in your hands.
We're just talking. It's it's a beautiful piece of book.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You've got that cover, which of course looks like kind of an aged pulp novel.
Yeah.
And then underneath, it looks exactly like the book does, the memoir does in the actual comic book. Including the pull quote from Lois Lane, which
right,
lovely, wonderful. But yeah, y'all can jump in, ask a question at any time. I'm just going to go ahead and roll with what I've got in the meantime. But yeah, let's get started. I know that Adam Strange was teased at the end of Mr. Miracle. That little T-shirt that he's wearing. But when and how did you decide that it was going to be Adam Strange? That was your next big thing.
We were, I think, probably a little more than halfway through Mr. Miracle, and it was one of the. We knew it was doing well. It was one of those good books. I had gone through this with Vision, where you're like halfway through and you're like, "Oh, this one's doing well," and I had gone through a book with Omega Man, where you're like, "Oh, this one's not doing well." People love it, but nobody's buying it.
Yeah.
So I was like, they're going to let us do whatever we want after. We're in a good position.
Yeah.
And I went to Mitch. I was his son's godfather. I went for the christening out to Arizona.
Wow. Yeah.
And we were literally being like, what should we do next? And Mitch was just looking at his shelf on things like this book or that book, and he pulled Adam Strange off because that's what's most important. I spend 2 to 3 months writing it. The artist is going to spend 2 years drawing it.
Yeah.
If they really hate jetpacks, I want to know upfront.
Need not apply.
Yeah, please. So he pulled Adam. She's like, I'd like to draw Adam Strange. That would be fun, jetpacks and laser guns. And I literally went home that night after the christening and then the next morning, we went to Starbucks as Mitch's beloved custom. And on the way I pitched him the idea, I pitched him Doc working on it, and that's how it started. Yeah. And I just came up with it one sort of the night we decided on the thing.
Awesome. How much did you know about Strange Adventures and Adam Strange in particular before you started writing this?
I mean, I wasn't ignorant. Like I had read Jeff Lemire's little stuff where he made him Canadian, which was like some of the most recent developments with it. And I had read like the post 52 stuff when he was on the ship with Starfire. And I had read some of the old, where he like appears here and there. And I probably had read, 2 or 3 of the Infantino Gardner Fox things. But I mean, I probably knew all I knew about him was he was a guy who had a cool outfit with a laser gun. And then after doing 3 months of research, I realized that was really all that there was to know. So I basically had it down. I just didn't know I had it down.
Yeah. Okay, so well, in that case, did the story come first? Like, did you kind of have an idea that you wanted to tell this story about, like these characters like Tarzan, or like you said in that one DC interview where you're like, this is very much in the line of those dimple chin heroes. Did you have the idea that you wanted to do a deconstruction of those types of heroes, or did you have Adam first?
No, I did. That all came from Adam and doing the research and reading a lot of Buck Rogers and
it shows.
What's his name on Mars and my stupid brain's
John Carter.
John Carter. He was like the first one, and Tarzan, and then doing a lot of research into Lawrence of Arabia, who all these guys are based on. Basically, that's like their early story.
Yeah. That and like Alan Quartermain types.
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of myth of Lawrence of Arabia, of the sort of the guy going into the desert and finding and being kind of a loser back home and finding sort of himself and becoming the leader general who leads an army against a bigger sort of imperial army. That became all of like all these sort of pop culture references to that sort of this sort of colonial dream. But I knew that, but I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
I had basically before Mitch and I got together, sort of, some themes I wanted to work on. A guy had come up to me at a con and was like, "Hey, can I pitch you something?" And that's like never good. You're always kind of scared.
No, that's always great.
They're like,
never goes right.
It's like, it's my mother in a comic book, but she's naked. What do you think? You're like, oh, I don't know, dude.
Sold, baby. Huh? Get started right now. If you
right. It's the bestseller. Forget Batman. Al's naked mom taking number 1 spot. But the pitch was, and I God bless him wherever he is out there. But he gave it to me. He's like, DC does all these year 1 books. They should do a villain year 1. And I was like, that. Oh wait, that's really kind of cool. I was like, yeah, like a Joker year 1 or a Two-Face, like that first year when you're kind of like a Breaking Bad kind of thing. I was like, that's a cool idea. So that was kind of floating in the back of my head. Someone had sent me a mean tweet where they're like, all Tom does is he writes fiction to cover up his war crimes. And I was like, that is a mean thing to say. I was like, well, that's kind of a cool idea for a book. So I'll forgive you. I was like, yeah, what a bizarre thing. That's kind of a good story. A guy who writes fiction to cover up their war crime. So like those 2 things. And then at that time, it's hard to remember back so far, but like, there was like the Mueller-Trump thing was going on where we were kind of like, it was like the sort of cat and mouse game we were all sort of following, waiting for like the truth to come out, which it turns out was all just fizzled. But back then we kind of believed there was a sense of that. So it was those 3 things that merged, and I kind of wanted to talk about those. And then so he put Adam Strange in my lap, and I was like, oh, well, let's do a villain year 1. Let's do a Breaking Bad story about a guy who's done some bad things and is covering them up, and there's somebody else investigating them. A sort of, Javert, Jean Valjean thing. And I was like, well, Adam Strange can be my guy covering stuff up, and I just needed a good guy. And I had written so many, sad middle-aged white guys looking out the window. I was like, I should branch out just a little bit from that. And I had seen like a recent episode of Justice League Action with Mr. Terrific, which I really liked. I was like, I'm a Mr. Terrific.
I love that.
And yeah, that's how. And then by the end of Mr. Miracle, Mitch was drawing 22 pages of 9-panel grids, and you could tell he was getting tired, and that was like costing him his family. So
his new family.
Yeah, his new brand new. Yeah, and I was there at his son's christening. I'm like, another 9 panels, I'll kill it. So I was like, what if we just do 3 panels, which will cut down, and we'll split the book between you and one of your other best friends in comics, Doc Shaner.
Yeah. And
so you only have to do 14 pages instead of 22. And maybe when your son grows up, he won't assassinate me for knowing you.
Yeah.
So that's how it all sort of started.
That's awesome. Well, and that also leads into a question from Michael Winstead. He asked, how did you, well, first of all, he says, this is one of those books where I had to buy both covers because they were both amazing.
Oh, you rock, dude.
Yeah. I mean, no arguments there. And then how did you guys decide who would draw the past versus the present storylines?
That was in the very beginning. It sounds stupid now because it actually evolved as we did it. Mm-hmm. I had worked with Doc a little bit. We had done one Green Lantern issue in the Dark Side War crossover. It's kind of obscure, but it's an issue I like.
I love that issue.
And it's a great issue.
And but Doc draws kind of the dreams of comics. Like when DC was like, we're gonna do a bunch of Silver Age books. It's like, let's get Doc Shaner to do the covers. It's like he draws like now that Darwyn Cooke has passed, he's kind of taken on that sort of legacy of the guy who draws like what DC should ideally look like.
Yeah.
Like it went from like Garcia Lopez to Darwyn Cooke to Doc Shaner. It's like the lion.
Yeah, the lineage.
Yeah. So like when I was like, okay, this is a story about, we're gonna tell 2 stories once. One will be the story of Adam Strange, like his ideal sort of that adventure story, story of him going to a foreign world and defeating a foreign army. And that'll be sort of an idealized story. And in the present, we'll have kind of a dirty, gross story that tells the truth, and we'll have them contrast. And so Mitch is the king of dirty, gross, like grounding comics in the real.
Super realistic.
So it seemed very natural fits for both of them. Now that totally evolved as we were going, mostly because Doc very immediately kind of, didn't signal, but like he didn't want to be in that box of drawing Silver Age pew, pew, pew. Mm-hmm. And but he never said that out loud, but I could just tell from how he was drawing and designing that that's kind of not what he was going for. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, well, this won't be, because Doc contributed so much to this book. I can't overemphasize. He built the entire world. He did all the alien stuff. He drew the map. He designed it. All that shit is designed by Doc. And what I realized is that this won't be, because originally I was like, okay, we'll just show the lie and the truth, and one will be a lie and one will be the truth. I was like,
right.
But Doc's kind of like, I was like, oh, he's a little psychotic. And when I did that 3rd issue, and like Adam's banging the guy's head against the ground, and blood is spewing in his face, and I was like, I love it. Like, I don't want him to draw ideal. I want him to draw the dirty, nasty stuff. Yeah. And so like instead of it becoming just the idealistic past, it just became the story of what happened. And Doc got to draw, the war crimes and all the torture scenes and all that stuff.
Yeah,
because Doc showed that he had just as dark a side as Mitch did, which was awesome.
And that super trippy torture scene is just one of the best things I've ever seen. But I guess to that point, did you ever view it as it's almost like the memoirs admitting to a lesser sin or a lesser set of sins to cover up the truth, like the super dark compromises that he made?
Are we spoiling the whole thing? I'm ready to do it, but it's up to you.
I maybe
you have to sell the book.
6:30. We'll call it like 6:30. We can go full spoiler.
Okay.
We're still in the selling it phase.
We're still in the selling it phase.
Yeah.
There's a big twist in the book that happens. It's a mystery that needs to be solved. But it's one of those. There's at the end or near the end of the book, there's a big twist that changes everything. And yes, the book was sort of designed for. It's hard to say without spoiling, but it was designed that way. I don't know. That's a weird.
Yeah.
If you read the way the twist works, it's one of those twists that the clues are in front of you the entire time you're reading it.
Yes.
And then Mr. Terrific tells you what those clues were. It's like one of those classic sort of Sherlock Holmes kind of things.
Yeah. Where he just like lays out literally numbers it.
Like,
number 1.
Yeah.
This was wonky. Didn't like that. Number 2.
It was great because people were pointing it out to me at the time, but they thought I was just making mistakes. You know, they're like, Thomas, doesn't make any sense. I was like, yeah, that's a clue. You're in it. I was like, figure it out. You're so close.
Right there. Yeah. Did your time as an intelligence officer? Did that influence this at all?
I mean, yes, very much. I mean, it influences everything I write.
Sure.
I could be writing a Lobo Hanukkah story. I'm sure there's some influence in it. But yes, I mean, the part of, especially in the first books I wrote, were a lot about sort of this experience of, I went into the CIA post 9/11 with some very amount of like idealism, like the idea of a problem, like the world had been rented by 9/11 and we were going to go out and fix it. And all we had to do was go out there and find bin Laden and shoot him in the head. And then the world would be as pleasant as it was in the 90s. Not the 90s were perfect, but kind of felt like we were on the right track, and then kind of like a scratch in the record. And what you find out, and of course, and in doing that, you know, I'm in my back of my mind, despite all of my whatever education I had, I still that myth of, you know, of Tarzan, of Buck Rogers, you know, I'm going to go into this foreign land and I'm going to, be this super soldier or whatever. Like it never gets out of you. Everyone has that in them.
Right.
And then to actually go and do that and see, oh no, this is a lot messier than I thought it was. This is not an easy solution. Like I spent a year in fighting the Taliban overseas, and Lord knows we solved that problem, right? They're just there. So yeah, I mean that is definitely an influence in this book. It was also an influence. Like I had spent, Mr. Miracle and Heroes in Crisis come out in this, and I had spent some time writing these books about guys who go through traumatic experience, who go through hard times, and are sort of saved by their family. Like, sad books, but warm in the end.
Right.
And I knew everyone was like, okay, that's what Tom does. You know, they sort of
it's his niche.
Painted me right in that, like, Tom makes books about fucked up middle-aged white guys who have troubles, and then they love their wives so much that they somehow find their way out, which is the story of my life, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I knew, because everyone kind of assumed that about me, that I could write this book, which we said has a twist where everyone's going to assume that's the story. Like it's another guy committing war crimes, and by the end he'll love his wife and be saved. And I could use that to suck the audience into something, when the twist was, like I said when I started, it's a year one villain story. It's something different than that. So it was a way to use my own biography to sort of take an audience on the journey with me.
Excellent. Yeah. We're getting some love for Batcat in the comments.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
And
The
Grayson.
next issue's out. Oh, Grayson. That's the old machine. Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's great stuff.
I do. I love Grayson. The new Batcat's out this week.
Yes,
finally.
it is. Yes, it is.
And this will be the last Liam issue, and then Clay is back on in 2 months.
Right on. And then that's issue.
This is 9.
9.
This week.
Okay.
Yeah, and then 10 is
So.
next.
And then the
issue 9,
announcement about
and
the...
then 10. I figured it out because I love math.
There you go. It's gonna be. And then you've got that new Batman book that was just announced.
Yes.
That sounds very exciting.
Killing Time, which has nothing to do with any of this stuff.
No, but
it's the opposite. Killing Time is like the anti-Batcat. Batcat is about emotion, and it's about Joker, and it's got like a lot of action and phantasm stuff in it.
Yeah.
But it's essentially a examination of sort of Catwoman's soul and sort of where she's at and how she sort of discovers, the love for her and Batman, how that works. Killing Time is like a heist action movie. There's no interiority to it. It's just people beating the crap out of each other and going on the run and danger and fighting. It's whatever Batcat is, Killing Time isn't. But it's so beautiful with David Marquez art. It's just great.
Oh yeah, the one image, well, the one that I've seen is gorgeous, where she's just, it's like the full page shot.
Oh yeah, I own the original art for that. I was like, ooh, that's a definitive. Like, people are gonna put it on Catwoman books for the next 50 years. I'm gonna buy that art right now.
That's going on my wall. Bo Stewart, my brother, asks, "Is there a veggie tray in Strange Adventures?"
That would have been good if we put it in as. There's no veggie tray.
I don't think.
How sad. I guess
You
I
have to
failed- I
include one in
failed
every
the
book
audience. I
moving
did it.
forward.
There's
You
a lot
can't-
of so veggie trays is sort of that's actually my wife's. My wife is a kind Midwesterner. And like if there's a party, her parents will get a veggie tray. It doesn't matter if it's New Year's Eve, doesn't matter if it's a breakfast thing. They're going to Safeway and getting a veggie tray to put out. And that's just and then like psychologically built. It's my wife, like she feels it's her failure if people are coming over. She doesn't have one out. So it was a way of mocking my. But so in this one we mock Mitch's family because they're always drinking whiskey, which is what Mitch's family constantly does. So there's no veggie tray, but the whiskey stands in for it.
Oh yeah, is that why Adam lives in Arizona?
Yeah. Adam lives.
Boom.
Adam lives in Arizona, and Mr. Terrific lives in Minnesota. Mitch grew up, born and raised in Minnesota, so that's so I knew he could draw the shit out of that city and sort of highlight it.
So is the John Donne like art piece? Is that real?
That's real. Mitch had to get permission from the artist to use it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting permission, Seth Meyers is actually in this one. Official. Like his name is in the corner and everything. How'd you swing that?
It's all Mitch, man. Mitch does these things. He'll draw something and then like legal will be like, you can't do that. And he's like, give me a second.
Hold my beer, yeah. Or hold my whiskey. Excuse me.
I'm reaching out to some people. I'm getting some stuff signed. And yeah, I immediately retreat. I'm like, oh, I can't use that. All right. Like there were like so many quotes I wasn't allowed to use for legal reasons. And I was like, all right, I'll just find some other quote. But yeah, Mitch was all over getting permission. Yeah, the art scene was really hard because they're like every piece of art you show, you have to contact the artist to get permission to use them in this book. But I had to get permission for Frank Miller to appear in Rorschach, which was much harder than they had to do. So,
but he had to be into it, right? I mean, like when you told him what he would be doing in the story,
he was super into it.
Yeah,
but he was. I don't think this is talking that term, but he did not want DC to own his likeness and to make Frank Miller toys.
Right.
And which makes total sense, right?
Like,
yeah. So getting the legalness around that was a challenge. It was kind of to jump through some hoops for that.
Yes.
But God, you want to be nervous? Try sending a script to Frank Miller that's about Frank Miller and being like, I'm going to put this in a comic with you talking. I hope you like it. Like you're my God. I hope you.
I like you a lot, but I do need you to be a conspiracy theory nut.
I do.
If that's okay.
I know.
You should actually put on the Rorschach mask.
And you're like, Jorge, just draw him a little more handsome. And he's like, Tom, all right, well, if I do this, you have to agree to be in one of my books. And I was like, okay, but you got to take off like 30 pounds. He's like, all right.
Yeah, it's the only way. And also, I want
maybe add some hair. That'd be okay.
Yeah. Just give him like Legion hair.
Yeah, Legion
straight
hair.
up. Straight up. Okay, I've got another question here. Did you write the Pict language, or was that an established? Was that established prior to Strange Adventures?
No, I just wrote Googly Gooch on Googly Gooch. Is that a famous thing? Like I literally like get. And then for the first half of the book, Clayton translated the Gibbly Gooch into words.
Right.
So I think it's like a 1-to-1 ratio where he created an alphabet because there was translation, but then later in the book they're kind of them talking where it's not translated. And since I had just put Gibbly-Gook, I think Clayton was like, do you want me to translate these? And I was like, oh man, I'm writing too many books. I don't like it. So I was like, no, you can just put random Gibbly-Gooks there. And so he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So it was Clayton doing the hard work for like the first half, and then it kind of falls apart. And it's my fault it fell apart because I didn't write the underlying dialogue for him to translate.
I think that's a good thing. For a very long time, I could sit and I was like, do I need to translate this?
Yes.
Like, I feel like there might be a clue there, but
I didn't even. Mitch, Doc, and I did not know until the issue came out, and people on like Twitter were like, "Wow, this is so cool! You can translate it." We're like, "You can?" Like Clayton did it without telling us. So we're like, "Whoa, you are working way too hard, Clayton."
I appreciate you following all these clues.
He like created a Krypton language. Yeah. God bless. Clayton's the best letter in comics. I don't work with anybody else. He's awesome.
Okay, and then I've got a question from Brandon Smith. Strange Adventures feels like a turning point book from the work you used to do and what your comics are now. Was that intentional? From a tonal perspective.
Yes, it was very intentional. I sort of, not that I hit a wall, but I had kind of taken. My books tend to come in waves. Like the first wave was Omega. I've written so many books now. Omega Men, Vision.
You have. When I was thinking about which ones to
Sure.
name, I was like, oh God, but I like all of them.
My son and I were going down a round of how many books I'm working on now, like including the ones I just finished and the ones like I may one day write that I'm like kind of working. And it was 13 books. I was like, whoa, that's too many books. So
I want those books. Whether or not there's enough time is another.
Or poor artists to draw the things. So I had you know, I like I said, I'd gone sort of, and then like Mr. Miracle, Here's a Crisis in Batman, it kind of had that same theme of like, you know, a guy looking through trauma and finding love. And I was like, I wanted to sort of jettison that. I also wanted to change the way I wrote dialogue. My dialogue was very much based on, you know, Bendis's style, which is kind of from the Gilmore Girls, Aaron Sorkin, that kind of, it's repetitive.
Snappy.
Snappy, repetitive. A lot of people repeating what the other person said. And I was like, I want to kind of put that to the side. I kind of felt like I've used that tool too much and learned different tools. So yeah, I very much was like, I'm going to change how I do dialogue. I'm going to change how I do, and I'm going to make us, I mean, Rorschach, I mean, it's different now because we're a different era, but we were in such a bitter time, and you know, these books were made in, you know, these are pandemic books and the beginning of the pandemic books, when it was just like the world is fucking ending and everything is goddamn terrible. And I say that today when it's all come back. So 2 years from now, I'll be talking about whatever book I'm writing now. Like, remember Omicron? The world is terrible. So I was like, I want to write about like that. I mean, these are books are, I mean, I love them, you know, but they're tragedies. They're bitter. They're about like what happens when evil does exist. And they're a lot angrier books. You know, this isn't like, let's just at the end, let's, you know, love each other. It's like at the end, it's like, let's fight back, you know, there are bad consequences, you know, let's get angry and fucking mad about this whole thing. On top of that, I had, which, I mean, you'll see in all of my works now, I gone to dinner with you know, I love old movies, is kind of my thing. And I gone to dinner with one of the TCM hosts, Eddie Muller, who's a noir expert, and my buddy Michael Cronenberg, and the three of us kind of went to dinner. And I didn't know very much. I knew a little old movies, but I didn't know very much about noir. And they started sort of talking about old noirs. And it's one of those things where, I mean, I'm sure we've all been in these, where you have two friends who are talking about something you never knew before. Like maybe like the first time you heard two guys talking about Magic the Gathering or, you know, Star Trek or something. It was like, I love this nerd. I love this. I want to learn this language. I just wanted to dive into that pool. And I spent a year watching all these old 50s, 40s, 60s noirs that I'd never seen before. And just over and over again until I could kind of, and like, you know, at the beginning, you're like, I don't really understand this. But at the end, you understand the language of it. I was like, now I want to infuse that into my books. And you're seeing that in all my books, sort of that sort of year-long process of learning that language.
Yeah.
To steal what Ed Brubaker's been doing his whole career.
Damn, he does it well.
He does.
Gabe Gandara asks, which character most resembles / do you most connect with?
I mean, I connect with all three of the main characters. I mean, I like Adam the least, which is probably why he's the most tragic character of it. But he I mean, Adam, you know, we have 1 more minute before I can spoil it. So yeah, he makes, you know, he's someone who puts his family first, and same with Alana, and I emphasize all the characters. Mr. Terrific's kind of loneliness is kind of, I mean, especially we were in the isolated point, and you know, there was a point in the pandemic where you're like, okay, I've been by myself for 6 months. Maybe I love this, you know, like I felt, I do kind of feel that with Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
And Alana's maybe a little too competent for me, but I like how she's like, she's writing her own stories. Someone who writes other people's stories. Like Alana just doesn't accept something. She kind of just goes out and gets it. I'm that kind of person who kind of, you know, like when I wanted to be in the CIA, I became a CIA. I wanted to become prayer. I'm believes in personal will and sort of overcoming things and getting shit done. So yeah, I relate to all of them on sort of different levels for sure.
Do you want to do a brief gear change and answer a Batman question?
Yeah, I'll answer anything. Like I said,
Okay.
unless it's like, which of your spies in the CIA did you trust?
No. Yeah. Can you give up your assets? Was the backlash on Batman non-wedding 50 surprise? Was it a surprise or was it anticipated?
It was a surprise to me. Yeah, I was shocked by it. The whole time, this is a lesson in managing your and having to sort of manage yourself. I had told, I mean, this was always the plan from day one, that it was going to be a very typical soap opera wedding where the bride walks away at the end. It was like, like I'd seen that, like to me, comics are, I loved like Louise Simonson when I was a kid, the New Mutants, and Chris Claremont's X-Men, like these soap opera kind of comics that also had people fighting in them. Yeah. And I was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do like a General Hospital heartbreaking wedding, and then we'll see where we go from. And then we'll build back up to that by the 100th issue. And so when DC started marketing it, I very much remember being on the phone with the marketing department and telling them, this should be a will they, won't they, not they are going to and surprise. And they're like, no, Tom, we're going to pull the, it's going to be great. You know, we're marketing. We went to school for this shit. And,
marketing does best, Tom.
And I don't mean to throw marketing on it.
No.
But that was sort of the, people are like, oh, you made me buy, like, I didn't write any crossovers for it. I didn't, and you can't find a tweet where I was like, they're going to get married. Like, I never said that.
And if you were reading the story.
Yeah. And if you read, and I put like a bunch of like, like the issue 49 ends with the Joker being like, it's like it's written there.
Yeah.
And also, but it would have had one impact if everyone had read the comic and been like, okay, that's why they didn't get married. What's next, kind of. But that's not what happened. What actually happened was the New York Times, 3 days before it came out, did a push notification. And the New York Times has like 10 million subscribers. So 10 million phones got a notice, including mine. I subscribe to New York Times. Batman, Catwoman don't get married. I don't know why they decided that was the news of the day. But and I remember it was around July 4th, and my kids were playing outside. I was like, oh, that's weird. Oh, look at that, honey. And then, immediately like, whoa, death threats, like, so it was like it was
1-2 punch.
It was before everything had come out. And I was like, oh crap. And, it's also a lesson listening to your friends. Cause I remember Scott Snyder calling me and being like, Tom, you're in trouble here. Cause he knew the Bat world. He knew I was like, no, dude, marketing knows what they're doing. And so like, I should have listened to Scott and pushed back more. So yeah, it was a bit, it still shocks me today when people are like, I can't believe it. I was like, oh, but anyway, yeah. I was like, this is a soap opera. This is, there are ups and downs. It's a great question.
Yeah. I've got one from Jack saying, is there a licensed property you would most like to write? And then he suggests, heavy as the head that wears the crown.
So I mean, there's so many I would love to write.
The Smurfs.
I'll do the Smurfs. I would write the shit out of Smurfs, man. I was a big Smurfs fan. No, but there are properties like I was talking to Boom, and they're like, they're a very wonderful company. They're like, Tom, you want to do something indie over us? And I was like, do you guys still have like the rights to the Peanuts characters? Like, can I write for Kaboom? Like, I mean,
if I could adults,
if I could do, I would love to do, the Peanuts would be fun. I mean, if I could do anything, no one would stop me. Charles Schultz's Peanuts, that would be awesome. I don't know. How about anything in the Marvel universe? I look over there longingly. Fantastic Four, jeez. My friends and I, we were listing like teams you would want to write, and like of the team books, like 8 of the top 10 are Marvel. Like there's only like 2 team books in DC you would actually want to write.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go with Charles Schultz's Peanuts if the world is totally open. I'd love to write some Charlie Brown.
I love that. I don't know who to get in touch with for that. But...
Anybody will let me.
Another question from Jack: would you ever go back to writing in the world of Sheriff of Babylon or something similar?
It's funny. I'm working on a creator-owned now, and it's like, I'm working. I have 2 creator-owns. One that I'm announcing shortly. I'm working on my second creator-owned. And I was just today thinking, I was like, why am I writing this as opposed to like some sort of war thing or CIA thing? Why I'm doing some. I wouldn't write in the world of Sheriff of Babylon, but for just like technical stupid, like DC owns Sheriff of Babylon. We have that sort of Watchmen deal, where as long as it's in print, they have the rights to it. And of course, when we signed that, we never thought anyone would buy the book, and now it's in print forever. So I just wouldn't write it because I don't own any of it, and it just doesn't make sense. I miss those characters. I wish I owned them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And which DC has every, I signed that contract. They paid me. I'm not bitter about it in any sort of way, and I don't regret it. It really helped my career. So, but it's just that's the facts of it. And I don't know. I couldn't write. I left the CIA when my son was born, and he's turning 13 this week. So
congratulations!
I wrote Sheriff way back. I wrote Sheriff as a novel before it became a comic. So I wrote that way back in 2010. So like I was like 2 years out, and then now I'm 13 years out. I don't know if I could do it as well. I don't know if I could remember it as well. It would take some work. Maybe I do like I put it all in space or something just to hide all the facts.
Or maybe he's been out of the game for a while.
Yeah, maybe he's been out of the game.
Comic
oh, we're developing something here. All right. This is great.
Yeah, you got to cut me off before.
I got to cut you off before I have to pay you. This is a good point.
And then my mom comes in naked.
Yeah.
So that's the real turning point. From Rick, we've got, how intimidating was it to pick up Mr. Miracle? So like I guess just as dare I say, Kirby's magnum opus, tackling that.
It was very intimidating, which is why we went the way we went, which was like Kirby went as big as you can go with the original 4th book. Like it's as cosmic and as big, and it's like it's everything from a cop drama to something about the beginning and end of various multiverses. And so like if we tried to out Kirby, then I would have been super intimidated. If we're like, if I'm going in and being like, all right, I got to have 7 ideas on each page like Kirby did, that kind of stuff, I'd be fucked. So Mitch and I went the exact opposite direction, where we're like, we're going to make this intimate story about a guy who just committed suicide and his relationship with his wife and having a kid. And we're going to use all that Kirby stuff, but as a metaphor for today, where he's got a, uses a boom tube, but he uses it like Uber, where he has to kind of wait for it. And so that made it a lot less intimidating. From the very beginning, we're like, let's use Kirby, but not try to outdo Kirby. Same with Rorschach. Like, let's use Alan Moore, but let's not ever try to do Alan Moore, or else they'll just get rolled over by how awesome they are. So that very much helped. Also, I was writing Batman, which Batman's a lot more intimidating than Mr. Miracle. So compared to Batman,
issues, no less.
The problem, what makes Batman irritating and intimidating to this day is Frank Miller. To go back to that subject, because Frank did year 1 in the main Batman books, and it's 4 issues long, and it's the best Batman story of all time.
4 issues.
Yeah, it's only 4 issues, and so every time I've written, between Batcat and the annuals, I'm gonna be up to about 100 issues of Batman. Yeah. And God bless people who like my work. Thank you so much. But I didn't do anything like year 1. Like 100 divided by 4, it's like 25. I had 25 chances to do it. Frank did 1 out of 1. 100% of the time he wrote 4 issues. He created year 1. I had 25 shots, and I'm 0 for 25 doing year 1. So
I can't give you 1. Come on now.
That's much more intimidating. You just like keep going. You're like, I'm throwing darts. I'm never hitting it. Come on.
Maybe if I just keep throwing them a bit.
If I just keep.
Well, then I guess I kind of have a question. Is in your mind, I know there's official DC canon, all that good jazz.
Sure.
Is Batcat your like head canon ended to the Batman run, or is it something that you partition off entirely from the rest of it in your head?
I mean, to me, what happens in Batcat happens to actual Batman, at least to me. Yeah, I mean, it's part of my run, but it's also part of James's run. It's also part of Josh's run and part of Scott's run and Grant's and all the way back. It's. I mean, what happened in that past and what happens in the present, and what happens in the future, at least in my mind, is what actually happens.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's all tied in. I mean, it sits the side. I have a precedent for this because when I first started writing Batman, Scott started writing All-Star Batman at the same time. So, and I never was like, oh, that's not the real Batman Scott's writing. I was like, that's Scott Snyder and JR. That's a real Batman.
Not gonna just gonna look Scott Snyder in the face and be like,
be like, no, this is my Batman. Yours is like some alternate universe. Like that would be an asshole thing to do. So that's that's kind of always how I viewed it. The same way sort of Scott and JR did with All-Star.
Nice. From Greg, will we get a Kite Man series? Please say hell yeah.
I was told by editorial after I wrote issue 85. My good friend Jamie Rich, who's my editor, was like, "You've done good. You've got to put Kite Man to rest." they're like, Tom, it's done. Like, just like walk away. You did what you did. I mean, if DC throws a ton of money at me to write a Kite Man series, I'm sure I'd say yes. But I don't think DC's coming at me with a ton of with the bankroll for Kite Man. I think that'd be something I'd have to push for. And so for now, I don't think. I mean, what Kite Man did what he did. I'd have to convince Clay to draw it because Clay does the best one. He did those 2 issues during War of Jokes and Riddles, and I don't think I could convince Clay to draw Kite Man for 5 issues. So I'd have to get him really dry.
Hey, buddy, I'm just gonna need you to spend half a year on this.
Yes,
no big deal. You're gonna love it, Kite Man.
We'll get 45 alt covers. They'll all be Kite Man on them. Be like a Joe Jusko Kite Man. Be everybody out there.
A Marvel masterpiece.
Marvel, we'll do the whole thing.
Yeah. We'll do it up big. Jordan asks, how much direction do you give the artist on what the art looks like? When you write your comics, do you have it planned out exactly what you want each panel to look like? Or do you tell the artist, this is what needs to happen in this panel, and then give them the freedom to decide what it looks like?
I mean, it's the latter, but so I don't write anything near Marvel style. In fact, I probably write tighter scripts than 90% of comic book writers. Yeah. And by tighter scripts, I mean
the panel descriptions or
the panel description, but like a lot of people will be like, hey, for this panel, I've got this idea for maybe do this and this, and then and if you like this thing, do this, and here's some inspirational art. But if you don't like that, how about just putting a fight here and I'll dialogue it later? Like even in like that's most of comics are kind of written that way.
Yeah.
My panel description, I stole this from Mark Waid and Jeff Johns. That's where I got my scripting from, and with a little bit of when it was at Vertigo back in the day, like Garth Ennis, and my panel descriptions are like panel 1, like Batman is on a motorcycle. Like it just says what the panel is, but it's as simple as that. Batman is on a motorcycle. I'm not like Batman is on this exact motorcycle from this exact time.
Northwest.
Yeah. So it's tight in the fact that it's like, this is how many panels are on the page. This is the picture that's in that exact panel, but the descriptions are very loose in terms of what the artist wants to draw and can draw.
Yeah.
And my artists, I mean, they all know this. They're free to just fucking throw that shit out and draw what they want. Which all of them do to various extent. I asked Doc and Mitch once, I was like, why don't you guys ever, because we're friends, why don't you ever be like, Tom, you asked me to draw the wrong thing here. I should be drawing this. I was like, why doesn't that ever happen? It seems weird. And they're like, oh no, that happens. We just don't tell you about it. I was like, okay.
No, we just do it.
Yeah, we just fucking do it. We're not. So So I'm somewhere between, like, I don't do detailed descriptions, but I write tight scripts that are not sort of vague.
Yes. And Jordan, if you would like to see that, there's a director's cut of both Strange Adventures and The Visions that includes the full scripts in the back. And The Visions actually also includes the one pager, like the pitch page, which is awesome.
Yeah, the Vision, I don't know if it's in the soft cover, but the hardcover has a beautiful breakdown of my scripts with Walter's pages on the other side, and just the whole process of how it's made. So if you can find that Vision hardcover, you can sort of see the whole thing. And even though that was like 6 years ago, if you haven't bought it, it's a beautiful guy.
Come to Ultimate Comics.
Come to Ultimate Comics. Get the Vision hardcover. Go watch WandaVision. It's all one thing.
We're just gonna use that clip in perpetuity. It's just gonna be a loop in the stores. Scotty Lamb asks, now that you've mastered noir, what genre are you going to tackle next?
I have been working on a genre, but it's for my creator owned, and it's super. It's definitely different, and it took me a while to sort of get into it and just understand it and sort of how it works and how. But I can't talk about it because it's my creator owned, and it would give it away. So ask me in 1 month, and I'll tell you, and I'll talk way too much about it, and you'll be bored out of your mind.
Everybody tweet at Tom in precisely 1 month. January 17th.
To be a writer, you have to be obsessed with things and not realize you're obsessed with them. You have to like the way writing works. Like first you have to know how to do it. Like that's very important. Right. You have to know how to, words and scripts and stuff, all that, and how the tools work. You have to have all that tools. But then you have to be like, why am I down this Wikipedia hole? And I'm like, I just took 4 hours to look up weird things and then realize that your brain is telling you to write a story about something.
Right.
So it's like where you get obsessed with something and then later on you're like, oh, I was obsessed with that. Let me turn it into a story. Like you can't waste any of your life. Yeah. Everything is especially when you're a comic writer, you're writing a story a week for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah.
You have to constantly cannibalize whatever's around you.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Let's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. All right.
I want to talk about the ending really bad. So yes, we are going to spoil the ending, Strange Adventures. So if you haven't watched it, mute, don't tune out. Can't have that. So the twist, right, is that Adam makes a deal with the devil, so to speak. Did the guy in line at the beginning, what did he know, if anything?
That was always a plant by the Picts to get the investigation started. That was supposed to be the thing. Because if you remember in the first issue, it's Adam who goes to the Justice League and says, please investigate me.
Right.
So that was sort of their plan all along, was for Adam to be investigated and for the Justice League to turn up the evidence that Adam was a war criminal, because that would make him look like the opposite of a person who would betray his country. Oh,
that's right. Yeah. At the end, admitting to lesser crimes.
Yeah, they wanted the plan the whole time was for the world to think that Adam was the person who most hated the Picts, so that they would be least suspect him of being on their side.
Right. Smart. That opens Pandora's box to a whole lot of.
That's
questions.
Why Mr. Terrific, he outsmarts the Justice League because they jump the gun and they release the stuff, and he's like, no, that's not the full story. And they're like, no, we found out he's this guy, he's the war criminal. He's like,
was that based on anything? Because that sounds awfully Mueller-ish to me.
It's very. It's all inspired by sort of our. I don't want to get political of everything, but there is a sense of there's a difference between like people hide evil under incompetency, like oh no, I wasn't being evil, I was just being incompetent, or I was just being brass. Whereas underneath it, I was like, no, I was being evil and trying to get power. That was, that's an aspect to our sort of current politics to this day. I was trying to go for that.
So then, because earlier you said that the Pict when you were writing it was just gibberish. That conversation that Adam has one, like in the sky, and then you confuse them. Did you have that actual conversation written out?
No, that's
'Cause-
just. I mean, I had ideas of what it could be, but I mean,
Yeah.
that was obviously a clue for you because I had done all this stuff of like nobody speaks the Pict language. It's really
Mhm.
hard to learn. Like Batman can't
Even Batman. Yeah.
And but Adam is fluent in it. Like all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like that was supposed to be a big red flag of like, oh, this guy has
Oh.
this guy knows things that he's not supposed to know. He spent more time with
Right.
these people than you think he has.
Yeah.
Like,
Would
that
you
was-
consider Adam to be a tragic hero then?
Yeah.
I struggle with the word hero, but I mean,
No,
ultimately,
for sure. He's a Shakespearean.
Yeah.
You know, he's like Othello or
Hmm.
or Lear. You know, whatever you want to put. Like Adam makes a decision that's not. I think most bad decisions are made this way. Like he's like, okay, like he's tortured, and in the moment of vulnerability, someone comes up to him and been like, look, we're gonna win this war. We're gonna kill this planet that you defend, and when we do, it's gonna kill your wife and your child. They're gonna be dead. And that's what's gonna happen next. Or you can do this other thing. and like that's if you're a superhero and that's your options,
Yeah.
like he's like, okay, so I get to save a planet and my family,
Right.
but I just betray my own soul and my own planet. Like to him, there's some selflessness in that, right? He's
Yes.
like, okay, I will sacrifice my planet, my soul, my sense of goodness to save my wife, child, and her planet.
Mhm.
So I think that is a tragic decision that sort of comes from his experiences.
Yeah. Did Alana know anything all along? Because I mean, like in the timeline, she was helping him write the book a long time before she actually knew what the deal that he had made. So I guess what did she know and when did she know it?
Alana knew about the war crimes
Yeah.
because she was there. She was a
Right,
witness
like
to them.
Pit, like falling.
Yeah, the pit
into
and the
yeah.
falling and the shooting the guys, the counting, and
Mhm.
she knew that Adam had fought a dirty war, but she
Mm.
didn't give a fuck. Alana's a cold.
Yeah, she's tough.
Yeah, Alana is like family ran Earth. Like Earth is like way behind, and then morality. Like she's like, you know, like she's cold and calculating. So she was like, yeah, that we did what. So she knew about the war crimes. But she did not know about the deal. I think when Adam makes that decision, and this comes up in their conversation, and that's why Adam and Mr. Miracle are not the same person.
Right.
For all his grace, Adam's awesome. He has a gun. He has a jetpack. He's not the brightest chip on the block. He's not like he's you know, like Macbeth. Macbeth is awesome in a lot of ways, but he's not the smartest character in the play. Like, and so when he's approached with like Superman, if he's approached with that sort, I mean, Mr. Miracle's approach with the exact same thing at the end of my Mr. Miracle story, where they're like, you can stop this war if you give me your baby, and it's like an impossible choice. And Mr. Miracle chooses a third way, where he's like, I'm going to conquer you in this way.
Right.
Adam's just not smart enough in that moment to come up with a third way. And I think he knew Alana would be that smart. And so he has this sort of guilt of like, I can't let her in on what I did because she would judge me and know that I did this wrong.
Right.
And he has to lie to her about the daughter being dead and the whole thing. So she doesn't know about any of that. She knows that he's hiding being a war criminal, but she doesn't know that is a smokescreen for hiding something deeper.
Was there a part of him, do you think, that wanted to be found out? Especially because, I mean, some of the clues he's leaving. You know, like my life is spent with grief.
I think he wrote that in there. I mean, Alana is from a different planet and doesn't know the Bible probably as better. Right. And that's like my favorite clue, because the whole time I'm doing these quotes and you're thinking, oh, Mr. Terrific's just showing off, but I'm actually showing that like those are clues to him finding out that clue. Yes, I do think, like I said, Adam is not like, he's not Lex Luthor. He's not setting up a plan. Like I think he did, and I think he felt he was justified. I think he's like, if she could, you know, I mean, everyone who's had a significant other, when they do something wrong, you know, you feel two things at the same time. You're like, oh, she would really judge me for what I just did. But if she knew all the facts, then she would admire what I just did. If I could just convince her. No, I think it's that kind of thing.
Okay. I saved our daughter.
Yeah, I saved our daughter. Yeah. So I think like he would love to have told her the whole time.
Yeah, but he just couldn't, because she would be like, Hey, thanks for bringing me in. We could have figured that out together, probably.
Thanks for thinking my daughter was dead this whole time. That was kind of shitty.
Hey, that wasn't hard. That
Oh, my
wasn't
daughter's
the
being
hardest
held
thing
by
I've ever
my
had to go
mortal
through.
enemy. I'm gonna go get her.
Yeah.
I love how she's like, "Why didn't you just go to Superman, you stupid fuck?"
I tried. He had to do Mongol things. Carlos asks, has a streaming service ever reached out to you to write an original series for them? If you can say, I guess.
Yes, yeah, I've been down the Hollywood stream 3 times now and hit a dead end every time. I mean, they were fun, and I got paid for them, and I got to hang out with movie stars and all that stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, I developed a whole big show that was with a big Academy Award-winning movie star, and we wrote it together and like went off, and he was going to star in it, and then at the very last second, it got pulled. It was like 3 years of work. It was very depressing. And it was bought by a network, and then the network was bought by a movie studio, and then the COVID hit, and it all went into shit. And then, of course, I was writing the New Gods movie with Ava DuVernay, and that got at the very last second the plug pulled for weird reasons. And I just had another movie. Yeah, Hollywood just goes no. And I was raised in Hollywood. My mother was a studio executive, so I should be used to this. But
oh, cool, very cool.
My creator owned, which is again being announced next month, is already people are bidding on it to be a TV series. So I'm starting down the road once more with my creator owned. So
that's awesome. Is that the script that Mitch recently tweeted about?
No, that's a DC script. That's a big script. Oy, I hope it's good.
Yeah, it looked like it. You can like see it in the picture.
That's a very high profile project, probably the highest profile project Mitch and I have ever worked on. So we're gonna hope it comes out well.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where they're like, we need to do this thing that's going to be seen by a lot of people. Are you and Mitch willing to do it with us? And we're like, okay, cross our fingers.
Got a pretty damn good track record.
Yeah. So I hope when I was writing that script, it was usually I write something. I was like, okay, this is good enough. I can fix it in the letters. You know, I was writing that script. I was like, no, I got to fix the ending. No, I got to move this. I got to move this. It's going to be. So hopefully, I think that's good. Mitch liked it. So
that's a good. That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
I have a question here. I guess it's possibly a YouTube channel. Thoughts on the review videos of your books done by your boy Zach? Does that mean anything to you?
It doesn't mean anything to me. I generally do not read my press or read reviews of my books.
And your mental health is probably better for it.
Yeah. I don't even like I'll do an interview with, like I did an interview with The Atlantic, like a fancy magazine, me and Mitch, and it came out, and I was like, Colin, my wife, I was like, Colin, can you read that interview just to tell me if I sound like an asshole? Like I don't.
You go in first.
I can't even look at it. No, yeah, I don't watch YouTube videos about my books. I don't even. It makes me uncomfortable. Even I used to be a huge comic book podcast guy, like before I got into comics, and now I just listen to like interview shows because I can't listen to people sort of the weekly review shows. Like I used to be addicted to all those shows. Yeah. Because I just don't want anyone to ever talk. I don't want to hear anyone talking either good or bad about my books. It just makes me nervous and stressed.
Gotcha. I mean, fair. And then we've got, when will we get the Adam Strange Flash Gordon crossover?
I don't know. Who has the rights to Flash Gordon?
We had Looney Tunes. Is that?
Yeah.
I feel like it's got to be coming up on public domain. I mean, come on.
I would think so, right? Like Flash Gordon was in like the teens, By the way, that stuff, the Alex Raymond art in that is like the best comic art you'll ever see.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's absolutely incredible stuff.
It's such gorgeous stuff. I don't know. Let's see it. Adam just had a pretty bad time at the end of this book, so it might have to be a flashback to a Flash Gordon thing. They can fire their guns at each other. Flash Gordon is a lot cooler than Adam Strange, though. He's cool.
He's got a pretty nifty theme song too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A movie.
I love this one. Scotty asked, people always confuse me with Tom Taylor. Can you prove once and for all you two aren't actually the same person? Can
All I
you?
can say is you can watch me try to do an Australian accent and fail.
Well, I for one would like to see that.
Here, I'll prove it now. If there's two,
Hell yeah.
Tom Taylor was for 10 years a professional juggler, right? Like that's his bio. If you know that about
What?
Tom Taylor, yeah, Tom Taylor used to be a professional juggler.
Amazing.
He was like one of those guys. I mean, he'll tell you his own story, but he left after high school. He went like across the street and started juggling, and people throw money in a can. He did that for 10 years.
Mhm.
So here's me trying to juggle.
Awesome.
There you go. I think I proved it.
He nailed it. Anyone that's just listening to this, he nailed it. He
If
absolutely
you ever see Tom on a panel, ask him to juggle or balance something on his head or something. It's awesome. It's like he has a superpower.
I guess last question. We're coming up to the hour. This one's just for me. What's your favorite Easter egg in the book? It is chock full of them.
I mean, on the last page, if you look very closely at Doc's, the last page of the book is the last panel. We're in the spoiler. Is the first panel of the book is Mitch drawing Adam Strange signing a book, and the last panel is Doc drawing that same panel.
Right.
So you sort of see like the past of Doc has caught up to the present of Mitch. So it's kind of like a flowing thing. But in the background, Doc put a ton of inside jokes, and in the right corner it says, "If you don't like this book, blame Mitch."
We know whose fault it was.
It's a picture of Mitch like sticking his tongue out. That's my favorite Easter.
Yeah.
If you don't like this, blame Mitch.
You're in this one too, right? You're in the bar.
I am. I'm in the bar. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm in Mr. Miracle at the very end. I'm in Rorschach at the very end.
Yeah. The whole.
You can slowly see me grow older and fatter and balder as my comics go on.
But
it's life. It's the
a
cycle
cool
of life.
thing. Yeah. I'm showing them growing.
Yeah, I'm showing I'm
Looks.
growing as an artist. Yeah.
Well, Tom or Mr. King. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. King, sir.
Mr. King to you.
Oh yes, God damn you and your youth.
Thank you so much.
What a pleasure.
This has
Thank
been
you.
Awesome.
I really
We
appreciate
really
it.
appreciate it.
And it was so
Yeah.
nice to hear that you had sold so many Strange Adventures, and I hope you sell some more because I really love this book.
More are on the way, a lot more. So if you would like one, just shoot us a message. I will insist. It's going to be my pick for the foreseeable future. But then we also have a nice this is our Ultimate Comics exclusive. There it is for Batman 50. Nick Darrington did that. He did
Beautiful
8
Nick
covers on
Darrington.
Mr. Miracle.
And that
I
will be
love it.
that Batman 50 will be very relevant again as an issue as we come to the end of Batcat. There's yeah. So
Well
that issue is not like something in the past. It's something that's still affecting Batman to this day.
Breaking news. You heard it here
Yeah,
first.
breaking news. Shh.
Yeah, no, you can't tell me.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
We're confiscating phones.
No
for everyone
comments.
that's
Yeah.
watching. Everyone in the comments is also saying thank you.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you for coming. It means a lot.
This
to
has
me.
been awesome. Really appreciate it. You can find Tom King on Twitter, Instagram. You want to give your handles?
Yeah, I mean, Tom King TK is me, but I'm sure you're
Mhm.
be easier to Google Twitter and Tom King than to remember that.
We'll check.
I gotta check more.
That's going to do it. But
All right.
thank you all
Thank
for
you,
joining
guys.
us at home. Thank you again, Tom. Really appreciate it. That's going to do us.
My
Have a
pleasure.
good
Thanks,
Friday
guys.
night.
Have a good Friday. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yes. It's
Tis the
oh
season.
my gosh, it's so close. Get your copy
Get
now.
your copies now. All right.
All right.
See y'all later.
We'll see everyone.